It's official. William Cogswell is the new House Representative for District 110. In this special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I speak exclusively with him one-on-one. Representative Cogswell, it is so good seeing you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
I appreciate this.
No, glad to do it. Sorry it took so long for us to get together.
No worries. I know you're extremely busy here.
Yeah.
And you know, as we sit here right now, the talk really 4 days before Christmas is the 526 deadline extension.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of that, what sticks out to you?
Lazarus. I mean, it just seems to keep coming back from the dead, but it's obviously a very complicated subject, an important subject, because there's definitely a major traffic issue, both in West Ashley and on Johns Island. I'm not 100% convinced that 526, as it's currently designed and planned, is the best solution to solve that problem. I think there's some alternatives that can really go a long way in taking care of the issue, specifically the pitchfork plan, the flyover at 17 in Maine.
Right.
Those are a lot less expensive alternatives that, as I say, I think will solve the problem. But we also have to look hard at curbing the urban growth boundary on Johns Island, because even if you build 526, if you don't address the urban growth boundary and what's happening on Johns Island, 526 will not be sufficient in 10 years' time. And the analogy I often use with people is, if you remember what Mount Pleasant was like north of Bowman Road before 526 came in there. And that was the hinterlands, and now, I wouldn't even call it the middle of Mount Pleasant. It's probably southern Mount Pleasant. So you need to be very careful and really think long term about the repercussions of dropping in major infrastructure like that.
Let me move from 526 to your swearing-in day.
Sure.
Your wife said the following on December 6th, quote, "Swearing-in day. These two are very proud of their dad, as is their mom." Where are you still emotionally with that particular day?
It was a special day. My wife and children came up and watched. We're sitting in the gallery for the swearing in, and it was a great day. It was that they are going to be in the legislature as much as I am, in the sense that I'm going to be gone a lot. It's a real sacrifice for the family, but they're excited. They understand the importance of it and what's going on. So I really appreciate them coming up to support me.
November 9th, you wrote the following on Facebook, quote, "Many thanks for all the congratulatory emails and calls. I'm glad I got involved, and I hope this will encourage others to do the same." Tell me how.
Well, I feel like, unfortunately, public service has gotten a bit of a stigma. With all of the recent articles about, basically they have a popularity rating, take it from Congress to the state legislature. It's not exactly a popular club to be in. And what I'm hoping is that, given the number of problems that we have in this state, but also the potential that we have in this state, that it really will encourage people from the private sector to get more involved. It's not just in government, but with local organizations that are trying to do good and trying to bring the state, allow it to live up to its full potential. And I think it has a lot of potential.
You also said this too. Hats off to Chip Winehouse for over 20 years of service to Mount Pleasant and Charleston, and a job well done. He's a tough act to follow. I know this is a crazy question, but how did you follow him politically?
Well, as I say, Chip, from the moment I got up to Columbia, he's obviously a very well-known guy and very well-liked.
Yes.
He was a very personable guy, but I also found him to be politically savvy. And specifically, what I think he was very effective at doing is representing his district. I think he was able, especially in Mount Pleasant, to get needed funds for various projects. He always kind of put the district first, from what I can tell, and I think that shows. And so, and again, I don't know him well, but what I've gotten to know of Chip, I mean, he's been a great guy and been very helpful to me. So I really appreciate that.
That's awesome. You also said this too, to my opponents, Alice Wakefield, Trey Harrell, Eddie Phipps, Russell Garrard, and Will Freeman. I appreciate your willingness to step up. I consider many of you friends, and I wish you and your families the best. Can you walk me through what it was like for you to be a candidate, Williams Cogswell?
It was very new. It was not something that I had any experience with. It was, I would say, a challenge in many ways, but it was also exciting. And again, I got into a 5-way primary race, then a runoff, and then I had a general election. And for the most part, I mean, the people I ran against were all very good people. They were doing it for the right reasons. And, as I said, I applaud them for their willingness to step up and get involved.
Yes, indeed. And you also said this too, to all those that have supported and encouraged me throughout this process, I offer a sincere thank you, and I look forward to seeing you and the interests of District 110 in Columbia. What are those interests in your mind?
Well, there are a lot. I mean, if you ever want to learn about what's on people's minds, just run for public office, because they will tell you, as they should. But as I say, we have a lot of issues that face the Low Country, and a lot of it, the challenges, but there's also a lot of exciting things going on. There's a lot of positive growth, I call it, with great companies that want to be here. But with that comes growing pains, and what we need to make sure of is that, as I've said in the past, we don't kill the proverbial goose that lays the golden egg. I mean, we need to make sure we do everything we can to maintain the quality of life, all the things that make the Low Country special. And it's not just the built environment, it's not just the natural environment, but it's also the culture, kind of across the board. So those are things that I want to see protected and preserved and enhanced.
Yes, indeed. You also said this too. Finally, to Lucille Cogswell, you have the patience of a saint. Thanks for building and holding down the fort, carrying the weight, picking me up and pushing us forward. What has it been like for your family?
As I say, it's been exciting. My wife was cautious in her support initially. I mean, because it is a major sacrifice. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It takes away from your day job and earning capacity, and she and I are partners in this company, so it's putting a lot of burden on her with me being gone on the work front, but then also, of course, on the family front. I mean, we have 2 children, Mason and me, 12 and 9, and I'm gonna be gone 3 days a week for 5 months, and that's a difficult thing to do, and she's going to be, as I say, holding down the fort, and I'd say already she's the general and running the show, but it's just a sacrifice that she's making, and that's a sacrifice that you don't hear a lot about from people that are in public service, but it's pretty critical and important. So I really appreciate her, all she's doing behind the scenes.
Exactly. Yes, indeed. Representative Williams Cogswell, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, glad to do it, man. I appreciate you coming by. And,
Anytime.
love to do it more often.
Please, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.